Armenia and Russia hold talks on Iran cooperation is an article linked up on Mark13News.com for April 15th, 2023. Iran is Persia in Ezekiel 38, and Armenia is most likely Togarmah, with Gog being the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, which are most likely Moscow and Tobolsk. The Russian Federation is at this time the current king of the north, according to the Daniel 11 hypothesis on biblicalresearchlabs.com. At the woe of the fifth trumpet, the Ezekiel 38 confederacy will become the fourth king of the north, which is the bear of Daniel chapter 7. Until then, the Ezekiel 38 confederacy will continue to formulate, as you can see in articles like the Russia-Iran weapons pipeline linked up for April 19th. But really behind the scenes of the Ezekiel 38 confederacy are the Kenites on the multipolar end of the globalist spectrum, trying to talk the so-called multipolar world order into existence using the hidden dynasty of education, which was globalized in 1830 when the first trumpet written of in Revelation chapter 8 began to sound, which was followed by the second trumpet in 1913 when the Federal Reserve System came into being, which is when the hidden dynasty of economics was globalized, with the third trumpet beginning to sound in 1945 when the hidden dynasty of politics was globalized, which is when the United Nations came into being, which is the great horn of the he-goat written of in Daniel chapter 8 verse 8, in my opinion. And then in 1948, when this final generation began, which is when Kenite-occupied Israel came into being, the fourth trumpet began to sound, which lines up with the hidden dynasty of religion, with 1969 being when the fifth trumpet began to sound. But 5 means grace in biblical numerics, and it's at this time nation continues to rise against nation, meaning the Kenite nation rising up against itself through two warring factions, using unipolar versus multipolar globalism. And once the great horn of the he-goat gets broken, the so-called New World Order will come into being when Satan and his angels get cast to earth, and the he-goat of Daniel chapter 8 becomes the leopard of Daniel chapter 7, which is symbolic of the Kenites and their 4 hidden dynasties, providing the infrastructure of the one world political system written of in Revelation 13 that will have feet as the feet of a bear, which is symbolic of the Ezekiel 38 confederacy, and a mouth as the mouth of a lion, which is symbolic of the Christian nations up until just after the deadly wound, when Satan appears as the Antichrist at the woe of the sixth trumpet, when all 6 trumpets of deception will be sounding at the same time, which is when most Christians will begin worshiping Satan instead of Christ, which is what Antichrist means. When the final 2.5 months of the 5-month-long hour of temptation begin, or 70 evenings, which are what the 70 years in captivity to the Babylon of old were a type of.